Okay, so as I told you, so concerning today, I'm going to be careful about the data show for you, not to destroy technology for us. So, general linguistics. So we're going to talk, as I told you, about the third chapter of your book. Okay, some principles. Okay, dimensions of analysis. Because how are we going to have phonetics later on, and how are we going to have phonology? How are we going to have morphology, syntax? Because it all depends on the principles you are using and the dimensions you are using for your analysis. So what are these principles and what are these dimensions of analysis so that we can have what we call phonetics or phonology or morphology? Because each subfield of them has got its own principles and dimensions of analysis. So this one is a very basic unit to cover before we go to phonetics or whatever other sub-discipline, right? Concerning the, if you have visited my little blog, English Studies Info, I have already uploaded in there the video of the last class so that you can refer to it whenever you need. I'm also going to do the same thing with this class today, and hopefully it will work, and I will do the same thing for all classes, okay? This is number one. Number two is that I'm going to add other, as I told you, if you have gone to the English Studies Info, you will notice that I have put a document for you that is used by another colleague of mine, okay, teaching the same course. This is going to be useful to you as well. Number three, I'm going to also embed and add videos where you can have more details about each field, phonetics, phonology. It's like you have a teacher with you, okay? So I'm going to put them there for you as well for a deeper understanding. Now, the first thing we need to understand concerning principles and dimensions of analysis is this dichotomy type token, okay? Dichotomy. Now, linguistic description deals with generalities, okay? So if you go to the field of general linguistics, you will know many times they will come up with generalities, and they deal with the generalities. That is, it is concerned with studying abstract types of language elements of which particular instances are actual tokens, okay? Now, there are generalities, but in order to come or to understand these generalities, which are referred to as types, we need to study the concrete, okay, realizations of these types into what we call as actual tokens. I'm going to give you an example, and it's not a very big issue. It's very simple to understand. Now, this one, quotation taken from Shakespeare's Richard II, okay? I wasted time, and now doth time waste me. This is a recommendation for you. Don't waste time. If you waste time, at a later stage, time will waste you. Okay, like this. Will make you suffer, right? This is an advice for you to follow in your life in general. Now, if you look at this sentence, or this quotation, how many words do you have in there? Can you count? I wasted time, and now doth time waste me. Okay, 9 words there, okay? And then this is concerning the word level, okay? The word level. Now if you go to the sounds, how many letters do you have in there? How many sounds do you have in there? You have I, W, A, S, T, etc. If you count them, you're going to find something like 32 letter elements, okay? I give you time, but this not waste time. You can do this later on and count them by yourselves. Okay, so if you count the words, 9 word elements, and if you count the letters, you will find 32 letter elements. But if you go deeply into the sentence and the quotation, you are going to find that there are some words that are repeated. One word that is repeated. What is it? Time. And there are some letters that are repeated. Right? So word, and if you count these repeated words, and if you count these repeated sound elements as one, you will finish with something like 8 words or 8 word types. Okay? Those are the types, the generalities. And then they can manifest themselves different ways. So you can repeat one type in different ways. So like time here is repeated twice, occurs twice. And only 10 letters. Okay? 32. Instead of 32, you have only 10. And these, some of them are repeated many times, like I and W occur 3 times. So we have W here, and W here. If you go to I, this one, and then time, etc. So these, it makes you understand what we mean by types. It is the generalities. Okay, we have only one word time, only one word teacher, only one word student, in other contexts, in other examples, right? And you have only one sound I, one sound W, etc. But then when it comes to actual performance, we can use one type and to manifest it in different ways. And those manifestations, we call them tokens. So this is the principle, the first principle you need to understand in general linguistics. There are what we have as generalities. Okay, like if you go to the dictionary, you will find type. This is the meaning of type. But then if you go to the actual performance, the actual spoken language, so in one sentence, you can have one word repeated 2 times, 3 times, depends. Okay, the same. And this idea becomes even more clearer when you go to sounds. The alphabet, okay, you know it. But then using this finite number of sound elements, you can come up with a number of manifestations and words, okay? So this is the first principle you need to understand. Types, generalities, and then in actual daily usage, we have manifestations and uses, okay, of these types into what we call as tokens, right? So, wasted, for example, if you go focus on the word, wasted, it is repeated twice. Here you have wasted, and here you have waste, but both of them come from the same type, which is waste, the verb to waste. Okay? It's like, this is it's very clear in our standard Arabic. You know, in standard Arabic, you have the root. Yes. Okay? And then from the root, you can have different, words and manifestations. So the root is like a type, and then those manifestations are the tokens. Okay? Now, wasted, to use extravagantly, this is the first one. And then waste, to make weaker and thinner, tokens of the same type, which is the verb waste. So you have the verb waste, but then it has different manifestations, different meanings, okay, from the same type. So you have types, tokens. Types of different kinds. You can have, when we talk about types, or even tokens, so it depends on what is the level of analysis you are dealing with. So you can have vowels, consonant letters, word forms, lexical items, etc. So when you go to vowels, you have again types, and then in everyday use, we have tokens. If you go to consonants, the same thing. Types, and then in everyday use, you have tokens. Word forms, lexical items. In every unit of analysis, we have the same story. So this is one principle for you to keep in mind. So what are the grounds? Now here comes another principle that we're going to deal with in the following slide. Now, yes, please.
The example 8 word types, I didn't understood. Where are the 8 word types?
Yes, you have, yes. So if you take wasted here and waste here, they come from the same type, which is waste, the verb waste. So they are counted as one. So this is one. Here you have 2. These are tokens. But if we're talking about type, we have only one type, the main word, which is the verb waste. So this is 1, then 2, then 3, 4. If you go this way, you have only 8. But if you focus on the tokens, that is to say, you take into account wasted and you take into account waste, these are tokens, manifestations which are different. If you focus on them, you have 9. Now, focus on sounds. Sounds is maybe easier for you to understand. So sounds, if you look at W here, and W here, and W here. So these are tokens. If you count tokens, they are going to count like 3. But if you focus on types, only 1. The same thing for I, and I here. Generalities. It is the main, the root. That's why I gave you the example for Arabic. Because that's why we can understand it better. In Arabic, you have the root, and then in everyday use, we can make different manifestations for that word and meanings. Yes, please.
What about type? Why we count it 2 times?
Types?
Type.
No. When we are talking about type, we count it as 1. This is wasted and waste here. These are tokens. Okay? Particular instances. Okay? So they are counted as 2. But what is the root from which these 2 words come? It is the verb waste. So they have waste, and then from it you have wasted, and then waste. Okay? Or maybe you can have I will waste. You can have different tenses. You know tenses, okay? So the root, or it is called as type, the main verb. But then in manifestations in everyday life, in communication, we can have with the verb waste in past participle, we can put it in a gerund, we can put it in future. Those are tokens.
But the word time, since it is a type, we count it twice.
Time?
The word
Yes.
time.
Yes. Yeah.
We don't count just 1. As 1.
We count it as twice. Yes. I wasted time, and now dot time wasted me. Yeah, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yes. So there is so it needs to be taken as 1 type, okay? It needs to be taken as 1 type concerning types. Yes. Okay? So let me focus on the other area, which is what are the grounds for distinguishing these different types and the grounds for the principles of classification. Okay? Here we go to the next point. Okay? So, a little bit of phonetics, a little bit of phonology here, already taken, because that's how we come up with phonetics and phonology. Now, if you take this example, safe and save. So here you have one phonological environment, okay? But this phonological environment, there is a difference in 1 letter, 1 sound, which is in here, you have safe, F here, but in here you have V. So here, you have, what is the distinction between F and V? It is voicing. F is voiceless. We're going to study the details about this later on. And V is voice. We're going to refer to the vocal cords, because in the production, the vocal cords vibrate, so that's why we have V, the voice. And F, the vocal cords don't vibrate, so we have voiceless, okay? So here, this feature here, this feature in these 2 sounds, it has got a value, right? Why? Because what is the meaning of safe? You know it. Don't tell me. And then the meaning of safe. They have different meanings, right? So here, the phonetic, okay, the voicing has got a phonetic difference. It makes a difference. It has got a value, okay? So this one is one principle of classification, okay? Phonetic difference. Difference is functionally significant at the level of word formation. Okay? When you are talking the words safe and save, right? So safe and save, it's the same, almost the same word. The only difference you have is concerning the last sound. In the first one you have safe, F, voiceless, and the other one you have save. And because of this, you have different words. So, the difference or the phonetic difference between safe And safe has got a value. Okay? It makes a difference between safe and safe. So that's why difference is functionally significant. You can have other words in which there is some phonetic difference, but it doesn't lead to any functionally significant difference. Later on I'm going to talk about, yes, here it is. You have pot and spot. Okay? So here you have aspiration. Okay? So you can have words, okay, like this one, P and P. It's the same sound, right? There is a little bit of difference between them. What is this difference? It is, okay, F, or aspiration. What is aspiration? It is the air, okay? P, spot, and pot. Spot and pot. There is some little further air, more air that goes from your mouth, okay? So, that is they appear in the same place in the spoken pattern concerning this one. They appear, are you following with me? F and V, they appear in the same place in the spoken pattern. Save, spoken pattern. They occur in the same place. You don't have here you have F and here you have V. No. In the same area, which is here, you have, okay, these two words. So they appear in the same place in the spoken pattern. And what happens? Serve to produce words of different meanings, like F and V. Okay? So this is one example of principle of classification. And that's what we're going to see later on. When we talk about phonology, we're going to talk about minimal pairs. Have you already studied this, minimal pairs? Read this in your phonetics course, no? Anyway, we will come to it and we will see that we have minimal pairs and how they can serve to help us classify, okay, sounds. Okay? Now let's move on to the next one. Dimensions of analysis. So, dimension of analysis. Here is in one dimension. Sameness. Okay? There is another dimension which is that of difference. So, sameness. What do we mean by sameness? It means we are talking about same environment. It is a dimension of analysis. Okay? It's as simple as that. One dimension of analysis that you rely on in your analysis, it is the environment. You take the environment of the sound. Do we have the same environment? That's one dimension. It's sameness. Do we have different environments? So you see, you use these dimensions in your classification of sounds. You don't take sounds just like that. A, B, C, D, E, F. You don't take them just like that and start classifying them. No, you have to take the environment. That's a dimension that you have to take into account in order to differentiate between, okay, sounds. So you have same environment or different environment. Difference, concerning the pronunciation, difference F and V relate contrastively, leading to different words. Okay? So when you have the same environment, you have the same sounds appearing in the same environment, but then there is a difference between these sounds, and this difference leads to different words. So that's difference, okay? Another dimension. You understand now how things occur? You take the sounds in environments, then you look at the environments, same or not the same. Now, if they are the same, you have to take into account another dimension concerning the words. Do the words differ or they are the same? If they are different, so we have one result. If they are the same, another result. So, sameness of environment, difference in terms of words, those are dimensions of analysis. when elements combine with others. Now, another dimension which you need to take into account in your analysis, it is the relations between either the sounds or words. Here I give you mostly examples related to sounds to make it easy for understanding. But you can have the same dimensions and the same principles applying to morphology and applying to syntax, right? For example, here we can have another dimension to take into account when we are analyzing language, which we call as syntagmatic relations versus paradigmatic relations. Last time, you remember, I talked about this, syntagmatic relations in my other class, and paradigmatic relations. Syntagmatic relations, when elements combine with others along a horizontal dimension, they enter into what is referred as syntagmatic relations, okay? So here you have P-I-T, P-A-T, P-A-T. So what do you do here? You study the syntagmatic relations between these sounds in one word. You take one word and then you study the sounds like this, okay? The same thing here, okay? So, and then when you focus on this way of this dimension, you can come up with classification. Okay? You can come up with a classification for language or the sounds of a language. There is another way how you can do that. If you take this example here, hat. What do? You go this way. Okay? Elements which have the potential for appearance in the same environment as said to be in a paradigmatic relation. So for example, instead of A, I'm no more focusing this way. Hat. Okay, what is the other word here? Fit, bit. So what do? You go this way. But here you go this way. What do? Instead of keeping this sound, you change it with another sound. And another sound. You remember the example I gave you last time, if you remember? That sentence, syntax, you gave you a sentence. Can you help me remember? What was it? Yeah? Anyway, it's going to take me time to go to the slide. But I gave you a sentence, if you remember the sentence. And in that sentence, what do? You can change, for example, Ahmed, you can change it with Omar, you can change it with whatever. If you have a pronoun, you can change it with another pronoun. If you have the verb eat, you can change it. Instead of eat, you can use drink, you can use play. So what do here? You have paradigmatic relations, okay? These are syntagmatic relations. You go this way, either in the word or in the sentence. For example, here we have words, bit, bad, bad. Look, I just keep the same word, bit, and then I go this way. But then another way of studying this, you take the paradigmatic relations in the sense that you keep the same word, and then you can change the elements in the same word by other sounds. Okay? For example, here you have a, and then all these sounds in here. So these are dimensions of analysis. So these are some of the principles for studying language in general. You can see them applying to phonetics, you can see them applying to phonology, syntax, etc. Okay? In the following, so that's how comes that you have levels of analysis. You can have phonetic, phonological, morphological. I don't need to go through this again with you. So the next slide, we're going to focus, or not slide, is it? Yes. We're going to focus on phonetics, right? So let me stop this first.